Chosen one. You're already late. But not too late. Why do you think you woke up at 3:17 a.m. last Tuesday with your heart pounding? Why have you been feeling that strange restlessness in your chest, like something massive is coming, but you can't put your finger on what? Why does every fiber of your being scream that time is running out? Because it is. Listen to me carefully. There's a reason this message found you tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. While others are scrolling mindlessly through their feeds, you stopped here. That wasn't coincidence, that was divine intervention. Let me tell you about Margaret from Queens, 73 years old. For months, she felt an unexplainable urgency, like God was trying to tell her something. She ignored it. "I'm too old," she whispered. "My time has passed." 3 weeks later, she received a phone call that would have changed everything. A granddaughter reaching out, broken, desperate, needing exactly the wisdom Margaret carried. But Margaret had buried that calling so deep under doubt and delay that when the moment came, she froze. The call ended, the door closed, the divine appointment missed. You are not Margaret, because you're here, right now. In the exact moment heaven has been orchestrating for decades. Before we go 1 second further, and I need you to hear this from my heart. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. But right now, I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. You've been given a train ticket. The train's already moving. You're not standing safely at the station anymore, you're running alongside it, and you have exactly one chance to jump aboard. This isn't another inspirational video. This is your emergency broadcast from heaven. The frequency you've been trying to tune into your entire life. It's crystal clear right now. But static is coming. Interference is building. And if you don't lock into this signal in the next few minutes, you might miss the most important message you've ever received. If you feel something stirring in your chest right now, if your spirit is trembling with recognition, don't you dare scroll away. Say it out loud. I'm ready. Let heaven hear you. Because what I'm about to reveal will explain why you felt so restless, why nothing has satisfied you, why you've always known you were meant for more. The clock isn't just ticking, chosen one. It's thundering. How long have you been telling yourself that the best chapters of your life are written in the past tense? How many times have you looked in the mirror and whispered, "God, I think you've forgotten about me"? How many sleepless nights have you spent wondering if your dreams died along with your youth? Stop right there, beloved, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've been fed about your age, your relevance, and your divine appointment with destiny. You didn't stumble across this message tonight. This message has been traveling toward you for 40 years, and it just landed in your hands. Think about that for a moment. 40 years. The same amount of time Moses spent in the wilderness before God met him at a burning bush and said, "Now you're ready." Listen to me carefully, dear one. The restlessness you've been feeling lately, that unexplainable stirring in your chest when you wake up at dawn, that's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Heaven has been preparing something for you, and your spirit knows it's almost time. You see, the enemy has been whispering a devastating lie to an entire generation of God's chosen ones. He's convinced you that because you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s, that your season of significance is over, that your time to make a difference has passed, that God's great assignments are reserved for the young, the energetic, the ones who still have decades ahead of them. That is not just wrong, it's demonic deception designed to rob the world of exactly what it needs most. Your wisdom, your tested faith, your unshakable trust in a God who has proven himself faithful through every storm you've weathered. Consider this. Moses was 80 years old when God appeared to him in that burning bush. 80, The world would have put him in assisted living, but God was just getting started with him. For the next 40 years, Moses would split seas, speak face to face with the Almighty, and lead 2 million people out of bondage. His greatest chapters weren't written in his youth, they were written when the world considered him past his prime. And what about Anna the prophetess? Luke chapter 2 tells us she was 84 years old, spending her days in the temple, praying and fasting. People probably thought she was just a sweet old lady with too much time on her hands. But when Mary and Joseph brought baby Jesus to the temple, it was Anna, not the young priests, not the religious leaders. It was this 84-year-old woman who recognized the Messiah and proclaimed his coming to all who were looking for redemption. Your age isn't your disqualification, chosen one. It's your credential. But here's what breaks my heart. While Anna was proclaiming the Savior at 84, some of you won't even proclaim your own worth at 74. While Moses was confronting Pharaoh at 80, some of you won't even confront the lies you've believed about yourself. While these biblical giants were stepping into their greatest assignments in their twilight years, you've been stepping into retirement from purpose. God didn't keep you alive this long just to fill up space. He didn't preserve you through heart attacks, cancer scares, financial crashes, and family tragedies just so you could spend your remaining years watching game shows and waiting to die. Every breath in your lungs is proof that your assignment isn't complete. Every sunrise you witness is God saying, "I'm not done with you yet." Right now, I want you to think back to a moment in your life. Maybe it was last week, maybe it was last year when something happened that seemed coincidental, but your spirit knew it was divine. Maybe it was a phone call that came exactly when you needed encouragement. Maybe it was running into someone you hadn't seen in decades at the exact moment you were thinking about them. Maybe it was finding money in an old coat pocket when your electric bill was due. Hold that moment in your mind, because before this message ends, I'm going to show you how that coincidence was actually God setting up a divine pattern in your life, a pattern that's been building toward this very moment you're experiencing right now. You see, dear one, the letter I mentioned earlier, the one that's been traveling toward you for 40 years, it wasn't sent by regular mail. It was sent through divine appointment, through orchestrated encounters, through what you called luck, but what heaven calls strategy. Every closed door that redirected your path, every person who came into your life at just the right time, every provision that showed up when you thought you were forgotten, those weren't accidents. Those were breadcrumbs leading you to this sacred intersection of time and eternity. But here's the urgent truth that's burning in my spirit right now. This divine interruption has an expiration date, not because God gives up on you, but because the window of opportunity He's opening requires your immediate response. The enemy knows what season you're entering, and he's working overtime to convince you it's too late, you're too old, you've missed too much. He's lying, and if you believe his lies for one more day, you'll miss the most significant chapter God has been preparing to write through your life. The chapter where your scars become your credentials, where your pain becomes your platform, where your age becomes your advantage. The burning bush moment you've been waiting for isn't coming someday, chosen one. It's flickering right in front of you, right now, disguised as this message you almost scrolled past. The question that will determine everything about your future is this: will you see it for what it really is, your divine interruption, or will you dismiss it as just another video? You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones walk around thinking they're cursed when they're actually marked, thinking they're broken when they're actually blessed. You've been carrying a backpack full of bricks for 70, 80, maybe 90 years, and every single brick has been a tool in disguise. But nobody told you that, did they? Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Why do you think your life has been so hard? Why have you buried more friends than you can count? Why did you lose your spouse after 43 years of marriage, leaving you to eat dinner alone at a table set for two? Why did that diagnosis come when you thought you were finally going to enjoy your golden years? Why did your children grow up and scatter like leaves in the wind, calling once a month if you're lucky? Was it punishment? Were you just unlucky? Or was there something else happening that you couldn't see? Here's the shocking truth nobody's told you. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Hell doesn't mobilize its forces against ordinary people. If your life has been a battlefield, it's because you've been carrying something so precious, so powerful, that darkness itself has been trying to steal it before you could discover what it was. You've been marked, chosen one, not cursed, marked. Think about Joseph for a moment. 17 years old when his brothers threw him in that pit. Can you imagine? Your own family betraying you, selling you like cattle, then slavery, false accusations, prison for crimes he never committed. 13 years of hell, 13 years of wondering, God, where are you? Why is this happening to me? But Genesis 50:20 reveals the secret. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every betrayal was positioning him. Every injustice was preparing him. Every dark night was developing the character that could handle saving an entire nation from starvation. The pit wasn't his punishment, it was his preparation for the palace. Look at Job. The Bible calls him blameless and upright, yet Satan specifically targeted him. Why? Because his righteousness was a threat to the kingdom of darkness. He lost everything, his children, his wealth, his health. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of hidden sin. But Job 42:10 declares, after Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. God didn't just restore what was stolen, he doubled it. But here's what gets me about your generation. You've endured things that would have destroyed weaker souls, and you're still standing. You survived the Great Depression through your parents' stories. You lived through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, 9/11s, the 2008 financial crash, Colorado vid-19. You've watched the world change in ways that seemed impossible when you were young. You think that was coincidence? You think you just happened to be born into the generation that would witness more upheaval, more technological change, more social transformation than any generation in human history? No, beloved. You were strategically positioned. Like Esther, you were born for such a time as this. Let me tell you about Eleanor from Rochester. 86 years old, lost her husband to cancer, her son to a car accident, her home to medical bills. For 3 years, she sat in a tiny apartment, convinced God had forgotten her. Then her neighbor, a young mother with 2 children, started having panic attacks. Eleanor remembered her own struggles with anxiety after losing her son. She invited the woman for coffee, started sharing her story. Word spread. Soon, Eleanor was counseling women half her age, teaching them that survival was possible, that God's faithfulness was real. At 86, Eleanor discovered her true calling wasn't what she did in her youth, it was what she learned through her suffering. Your pain wasn't pointless. Your struggles weren't random. Every tear you've cried in secret, every night you've prayed through gritted teeth, every morning you've gotten up when staying in bed, would have been easier. All of it was forging something inside you that cannot be destroyed. The Apostle Paul understood this. Philippians 1:12-13 says, "Now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I am in chains for Christ." Paul's imprisonments weren't setbacks, they were setups. His chains became his credentials, his sufferings became his sermon. And everyone who witnessed his joy in the midst of pain knew they were seeing something supernatural. That's you, chosen one. Your scars aren't shame, they're your signature. Your wrinkles aren't weakness, they're wisdom carved by fire. Your slower steps aren't decline, they're the measured walk of someone who's learned that life is precious, that every breath is a gift, that every sunrise is mercy. But here's what breaks my heart. Most of you are still living like victims instead of victors. You're still rehearsing your pain instead of revealing your power. You're still focused on what broke you instead of what it built in you. What nearly destroyed you was actually forging something in you that can't be destroyed. Your resilience isn't human, it's supernatural. Your ability to keep loving after being betrayed, to keep hoping after being disappointed, to keep believing after being broken, that's not natural. That's the mark of heaven on your soul. The world looks at your age and sees limitation. God looks at your age and sees qualification. The world sees your scars and calls them damage. Heaven sees your scars and calls them credentials. The world counts your years and says you're running out of time. But the Almighty counts your years and says you're running into your finest hour. If this is your story, if you've carried weight that should have crushed you, but somehow made you stronger, say it out loud right now. I've been marked. Don't whisper it. Declare it. You're acknowledging what heaven already knows. You weren't chosen for an easy life. You were chosen for an impossible assignment that only someone with your exact scars, your exact story, your exact strength could handle. But the question that will determine everything is this. Now that you know you've been marked for greatness instead of cursed with hardship, what are you going to do with the authority your suffering has earned you? Dear chosen one, do you hear that sound? That steady, relentless beating in your chest? That's not just your heart. That's the prophetic clock of heaven, and it's been counting down to this exact moment for 70, 80, maybe 90 years of your life. Time in God's kingdom doesn't work like time on Wall Street. It doesn't follow your retirement schedule or your doctor's appointments. Divine time operates on what the Bible calls appointed seasons, moments when heaven and earth collide, when the impossible becomes inevitable, when ordinary people step into extraordinary destiny. Think about Noah. Genesis 7:16 tells us something that will shake you. Then the Lord shut him in. Not Noah, not his family. The Lord shut the door. For 120 years, that door stood open. Every single day, people walked past that massive ark, laughing, mocking, calling Noah a crazy old man building a boat in the desert. But there came one moment, one single moment, when God's patience reached its divine limit, and that door closed forever. Those who were inside survived. Those who were outside didn't. You see, God's timing isn't cruel, it's merciful. He gives us windows, wide, generous windows. But those windows don't stay open forever. And right now, as I speak these words, you're standing in front of your window. Not tomorrow's window, not next month's window, today's window. And I can tell you with prophetic certainty, it's starting to close. How do I know? Because of what's been happening to you lately. Those sleepless nights when you feel like God is trying to tell you something urgent. That restlessness that makes you pace your apartment at midnight, knowing something's shifting but not understanding what. That sudden, inexplicable urgency that brought you to this message tonight. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's your spirit recognizing divine timing. Look at Jericho. Joshua's army marched around those walls for 6 days in complete silence. 6 days of walking the same path, seeing the same obstacles, facing the same impossibilities. Can you imagine what they felt? The doubt creeping in. Are we just walking in circles? Maybe this isn't working. Maybe we misheard God. But on the seventh day, they shouted. And those walls that had stood for generations didn't just crack. They didn't slowly crumble. In one supernatural moment, they collapsed completely. This is your Jericho moment. And the walls in your life, that financial struggle that's haunted you for decades, that health report that's been hanging over your head, that broken relationship you thought could never be healed, that dream you buried under "I'm too old," those walls are already trembling. Can you feel it? That vibration in the spiritual realm? Those walls are about to fall, but only if you're willing to march when heaven says march, and shout when heaven says shout. But here's what terrifies me for you tonight. There's a tide coming in. A spiritual tide unlike anything your generation has ever witnessed. If you're standing on the shore when it arrives, it will carry you farther than your legs could ever take you. It will sweep you into purposes and blessings and divine appointments that will leave your children and grandchildren speechless. But if you're not positioned correctly, if you're still hesitating, still doubting, still making excuses about your age or your past or your limitations, that same tide will pass you by. And you'll spend your remaining years watching from the shore, knowing you could have been part of something magnificent. I'm about to share with you a 7-day alignment story that happened to a 7-8-year-old woman in Brooklyn just last month. What God did in her life in exactly 7 days will prove to you that your prophetic clock isn't winding down, it's winding up. But first, I need you to do something that might feel strange but is absolutely critical. Write down today's date, right now, on a piece of paper, on your phone, anywhere you can see it. Because this date, this very moment you're hearing my voice, this is your spiritual timestamp. This is the moment heaven marked as your turning point. Years from now, when people ask you when everything changed, you'll point to this exact date. The question burning in my spirit right now is this: will this timestamp mark the day you finally stepped into your destiny, or will it mark the day you almost did, but chose to wait just a little bit longer? Because, beloved, there's something about the next 7 days that will either launch you into your greatest chapter or confirm that you've chosen to stay exactly where you are. Dear chosen one, I need you to stop everything you think you know about why you're still here at this age. Stop listening to the voices that whisper you've missed your moment. Stop believing the lie that your best chapters are sealed in yesterday's book. Because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every limitation you've placed on your remaining years. You think you woke up this morning as just another senior citizen in America, another person collecting Social Security, taking medications, watching the world change around you. But that's not who you are. That's not why you're still breathing. That's not why your heart is still beating 70, 80, maybe 90 years into this journey. You thought you were the candle, flickering, burning down, running out of wax. But chosen one, you are the lighthouse. And the darker the night gets, the more desperately the world needs your light. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Why are you still here when others your age have gone home? Why did God let you survive that heart attack in your 60s when the doctors said you wouldn't make it? Why did you beat that cancer when the statistics said otherwise? Why are you still standing when so many of your friends are resting in graves across this nation? Was it luck? Was it good genes? Was it modern medicine? No, beloved, it was assignment. Divine, unfinished assignment. The enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for years. You're too old. You've done your part. Time to step aside and let the young folks take over. But I'm here to tell you that's the biggest deception hell has ever sold to God's seasoned warriors. Moses was 80 years old when God called him from a burning bush. 80. When most men were considered ancient, God said, "Now you're ready. Now you have what it takes." Because it wasn't Moses' youth that would part the Red Sea. It was his wisdom earned through 8 decades of living, learning, and trusting. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. 100. Sarah was 90 when she laughed at God's promise, then held her miracle baby in her weathered arms. Their age wasn't their disqualification, it was their qualification. Because only someone who had waited that long, hoped that long, trusted that long, could birth a nation. Caleb was 85 when he stood before Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain." Not give me a comfortable retirement, not give me a rocking chair on the porch. Give me this mountain. Give me the giants. Give me the impossible. At 85, he wasn't looking for rest, he was ready for conquest. And you, dear one, you carry the same spiritual DNA, the same divine fire, the same holy assignment that doesn't come with an expiration date. Every scar you carry on your body is proof that you've survived battles that equipped you for today's fight. That bypass surgery didn't weaken you, it strengthened your testimony. That loss of your spouse didn't end your purpose, it deepened your compassion. That financial struggle didn't disqualify you, it taught you that God is your provider when everything else fails. You've been thinking your scars are signs of defeat, but they're actually your credentials. Every wound is evidence that you faced something that could have destroyed you, and you're still here. Still standing. Still believing. Still carrying something this world desperately needs. Look around America today. Look at this generation drowning in depression, anxiety, hopelessness. They have technology but no wisdom. They have information but no understanding. They have connections but no community. They're dying for someone who has walked through fire and can show them how to come out refined, not consumed. That someone is you. Your gray hair isn't a sign of decline, it's a crown of wisdom. Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness." Your wrinkles aren't marks of deterioration, they're maps of faithfulness, each line telling a story of God's goodness through decades of testing. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. Time is running short. Not your time, God's time. The harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. This generation needs what you carry. They need your stability in chaos. They need your peace in panic. They need your faith when their world is falling apart. You've been sitting on the sidelines thinking you're benched, when God has been preparing you for the championship game. Every disappointment was training. Every loss was preparation. Every year you've lived has been accumulating spiritual interest, and now it's time to make the withdrawal. The world tells you to retire from purpose, but God's calling you to activate it. They say slow down, He says speed up. They say your time has passed, He says your time has come. Right now, somewhere in your city, there's a young mother on the verge of giving up. She needs your wisdom about raising children through storms. There's a man facing bankruptcy who needs to hear how you made it through the depression. There's a teenager contemplating suicide who needs to see that life is worth living because you chose to keep living when death seemed easier. Your story isn't ending, chosen one. It's reaching its climax. But the question that will determine everything is this. Will you finally stop making excuses about your age and start making impact with your wisdom? Will you trade your rocking chair for your spiritual assignment? Will you recognize that you're not the candle burning out, you're the lighthouse that the lost ships have been searching for in the storm? Because if you're ready to step into the fullness of why you're still here, everything is about to change. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your heart. How many times have you said to yourself, I should have listened to that feeling? How many times have you walked away from a conversation, a decision, a moment, and whispered, something told me not to do that, but I ignored it? You think that voice was just your imagination, don't you? You think those gut feelings were just nerves, just anxiety, just an overactive mind playing tricks on you. But what if I told you that every single time you dismissed that inner knowing, you were actually silencing the voice of the Almighty, speaking directly to your spirit? The truth is, you've been equipped with spiritual sight since the day you were born. But somewhere along the way, the world convinced you it wasn't real. They told you to be practical, to trust only what you can see with your natural eyes, to rely on logic instead of the supernatural download system God installed in your soul before you took your first breath. Proverbs 20:27 declares, "The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts." You are not just flesh and blood walking around with a beating heart. You are a living, breathing spiritual radar system designed to detect heaven's frequency. But that radar has been jammed by doubt, clouded by disappointment, and dimmed by decades of people telling you to be reasonable. Let me tell you about Eleanor from the Bronx. 81 years old, living alone in the same apartment for 37 years. One Thursday morning in October, she woke up with the strangest feeling. Not a thought, not a plan, a feeling. Something deep in her spirit said, "Don't take the subway today, walk to church instead." Now Eleanor hadn't walked the 12 blocks to church in over 2 years. Her arthritis, her hip, her age. But that feeling wouldn't leave her alone. So she grabbed her coat, stepped outside, and started walking. 23 minutes later, as she passed the subway entrance she would have used, She heard the screaming. A massive electrical fire had trapped 47 people underground. The same train, the same time, the same route she'd taken every Thursday for 15 years. Eleanor didn't have a vision. She didn't hear an audible voice. She simply felt something in her spirit that made no logical sense. And that feeling saved her life. But here's what's breaking my heart right now. How many Eleanors are sitting in apartments across America, dismissing these divine downloads because they think they're too old to hear from God? How many of you have buried your spiritual sensitivity under decades of disappointment, thinking that if God was going to speak to you, He would have done it when you were younger? Listen to me carefully. Your age is not a limitation on your spiritual sight. It's an amplification. Samuel was just a boy when God first spoke to him, but it was the prophet Anna, at 84 years old, who recognized Jesus as the Messiah when his own family didn't understand who he was. Luke 2:36 tells us she had been in the temple, fasting and praying, for decades, and at 84, her spiritual eyes were clearer than anyone's around her. The problem isn't that God stopped speaking to you as you got older. The problem is that you stopped believing you were worthy of hearing Him speak. But everything you've been through, every trial that should have broken you, every loss that should have destroyed your faith, has actually been sharpening your spiritual discernment. You know what betrayal feels like before someone even opens their mouth. You can sense when someone's heart isn't right before they say a word. You walk into rooms and immediately feel the spiritual temperature. That's not paranoia. That's prophecy. That's your spirit operating in the gifts God gave you before the foundation of the world. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, some of you are feeling that familiar stirring in your chest. That's your spiritual sight trying to activate. That's God saying, it's time to stop pretending you can't see what I'm showing you. The enemy has convinced you that your intuition is just worry, that your discernment is just suspicion, that your prophetic impressions are just coincidence. But Hebrews 5:14 tells us that mature believers have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Your senses. Not your education, not your experience, your spiritual senses. Here's what I need you to understand with crystal clarity. The reason you felt so restless lately, the reason sleep has been elusive, the reason you keep feeling like something major is about to shift in your life, is because your spiritual sight is trying to activate at a level you've never experienced before. God is preparing to show you things that will guide not just your steps, but the steps of your children, your grandchildren, your entire bloodline. But you have to stop apologizing for what you sense. You have to stop dismissing what you feel. You have to stop explaining away the supernatural as natural coincidence. So right here, right now, I want you to do something that's going to feel uncomfortable but absolutely necessary. I want you to close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and I want you to repeat after me, word for word, with everything you have inside you. Father God, I have spent too many years dismissing your voice as my imagination. Today, I receive the gift of spiritual sight you've been trying to give me. I choose to trust what you show me, even when it doesn't make sense to my natural mind. Open my spiritual eyes to see, my spiritual ears to hear, and my heart to receive every divine download you want to give me. I am ready to walk in the supernatural discernment you've equipped me with. In Jesus' name, I activate my spiritual sight right now. Now open your eyes. Do you feel that? That shift in the atmosphere around you, that's not your emotions playing tricks on you. That's heaven responding to your faith. But here's the question that will determine whether this activation changes your life or becomes just another moment you forget. What are you going to do the next time you feel that inner knowing, that spiritual nudge, that divine whisper that doesn't make logical sense but burns true in your spirit? Listen to me, chosen one. You've been carrying a winning lottery ticket in your coat pocket for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. You keep feeling it there, that weight, that presence, but you've convinced yourself it's just an old receipt. Today, I'm telling you to pull it out and look at it, really look at it. Because what you're holding isn't just a ticket, it's your divine calling, and the drawing is happening right now. You want to know why God waited until this season of your life to activate what's been dormant inside you? Why He didn't call you at 25 when your knees didn't creak, or at 40 when your memory was sharp as a razor? Because, dear friend, wisdom can't be downloaded, it has to be lived. Authority can't be manufactured, it has to be earned through fire. Moses was 80 when God spoke from that burning bush. 80, when the world would have put him out to pasture, heaven was just getting started with him. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah that everyone else missed. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for people just like you. While you've been apologizing for your gray hair, God's been polishing your crown. While you've been hiding behind "I'm too old," heaven's been shouting, "You're finally ready." The same hands that trembled signing your retirement papers are the hands God wants to use to sign revival into existence. The same voice that whispers, "My time has passed," is the voice He's been tuning for decades to speak life into dead situations. The same heart that feels forgotten is the heart that carries the very frequency this broken world is dying to hear. You think your best chapters are behind you? Let me shock you with truth that will rearrange your entire perspective. Your greatest chapters haven't even been written yet. The impact you're going to have, the lives you're going to touch, the legacy you're going to leave, it's all ahead of you, all of it. Think about Queen Esther. She didn't know she was born for her moment, until Haman's decree threatened to annihilate her people. Mordecai looked at her and said those words that echo through eternity, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? For such a time as this, not for easier times, not for convenient times, for these times, these desperate, chaotic, broken times when the world needs exactly what you carry." Your grandchildren aren't just pulling away because of technology, they're drowning in hopelessness, and they need an anchor. Your community isn't just getting rougher, it's crying out for someone who remembers what real strength looks like. This nation isn't just divided, it's starving for voices that have been tested by time and proven faithful. You are Queen Esther in 2024, America. This is your such a time as this moment. But I need to tell you something that's going to cut deep. Time is not your friend right now. Every day you spend convincing yourself you're too old, too tired, too irrelevant, is a day that someone else goes without the hope you carry. Every week you waste believing the lie that your season is over is a week that broken families stay broken, that lost souls stay lost, that communities stay hopeless. The enemy's greatest weapon against seniors isn't sickness or loneliness, it's the lie that your expiration date has passed. He knows that if you ever wake up to who you really are, if you ever step into the fullness of your calling, his kingdom of darkness doesn't stand a chance. Right now, there's a battle being fought in the heavenly realm over your next decision. Angels are warring against principalities that want to keep you small, quiet, hidden. Demons are trembling because they know what happens when someone, with your experience, your wisdom, your tested faith finally roars. Your lottery ticket is burning a hole in your pocket. The winning numbers have been called. The prize is waiting. But there's an expiration date, and it's approaching faster than you think. Don't you dare let another sunrise come and go while you're still sitting on the sidelines of your own destiny. Don't you dare take another breath for granted when God is offering you the chance to breathe life into others. Don't you dare waste another precious day of the time you have left when eternity is keeping score of every moment you choose. Courage over comfort. This is it. This is your moment. This is your burning bush, your Jordan River, your Red Sea standing before you, waiting to be parted by the authority that flows through your weathered hands. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you have a choice. You can shuffle to your kitchen, pour your coffee, and live another day of quiet resignation. Or you can stand up, look in that mirror, and declare, "I am not done. I am not finished. I am not too late. God has saved his best assignment for last, and I will not die with my music still inside me. Don't wait another day. Don't wait another hour. Right now, wherever you are, speak it out loud. I step into my calling. Say it like you mean it. Say it like heaven is listening. Say it like your legacy depends on it. Because it does. And tomorrow, you act on one thing God has put on your heart. One conversation you've been avoiding. One dream you've been postponing. One step toward the destiny that's been calling your name for decades. Your ticket is in your hand. The window is open. But windows don't stay open forever. The question that will echo through eternity is this: what will you do with the time you have left? There's a room in heaven with your name engraved on the door. Pure gold letters, your exact name. But for 70, 80, maybe 90 years of your life, that door has been sealed shut with 7 divine locks. Tonight, I'm going to tell you why. Picture this with me. You're walking down the longest corridor you've ever seen. The walls shimmer like mother of pearl, stretching endlessly in both directions. Your footsteps echo against marble floors that reflect not your face, but your soul. And at the end of this corridor stands a door unlike any other, massive, ancient, radiating with a light so pure it makes your eyes water. As you approach, you see it. Your name. Not the name your parents gave you. Not the name on your social security card. Your true name, the one God whispered over you before the foundation of the world was laid. But the door won't open. 7 seals hold it shut. 7 locks that have kept your greatest blessing, your highest calling, your deepest purpose locked away for decades. You've felt it, haven't you? That ache, that knowing, that restless stirring that whispers, there's something more. Something I'm supposed to be doing. Something I'm supposed to become. You've carried that weight your entire life, thinking you were broken, thinking you were behind, thinking God had somehow forgotten about you. Dear one, God didn't forget you. He was protecting you. Listen to what the angel told Daniel in chapter 12, verse 4. But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Did you catch that? Seal the words until the time of the end. Not because the words weren't true, not because the vision wasn't real, but because there was an appointed time, a divine moment when those seals would be broken and the revelation would flood forth. That appointed time is now. You thought those years of struggle were punishment. You thought the closed doors, the rejected applications, the dreams that seemed to die, you thought all of that meant God had given up on you. But every disappointment was another lock being secured on that door. Every trial was another seal being placed over your blessing. Not to keep you out, but to keep it safe until you were ready. Ready for what? Ready to handle the weight of your true assignment without being crushed by it. Think about Joseph, 17 years old when God gave him the dream of rulership. But did God hand him the throne at 17? Number. He sealed that vision away while Joseph endured 13 years of slavery, false accusation, and imprisonment. 13 years of wondering if he'd imagined the whole thing. 13 years of seals being placed, locks being secured, protection being established around a calling so massive that only a man tested by fire could carry it. When Pharaoh finally called for Joseph, he wasn't the same naive boy who'd shared his dreams with jealous brothers. He was a man who'd learned to hear God's voice in prison cells, to trust God's timing through betrayal, to worship God's goodness in the darkest hour. The seals weren't broken until the man was ready for what they contained. You are that man, you are that woman, and the seals on your door are cracking. For decades, you've watched younger people walk into opportunities you thought were meant for you. You've seen others receive promotions, recognition, breakthroughs while you sat in the waiting room of your own life. But what if I told you they weren't getting your blessing? What if I told you they were getting theirs, while yours remained sealed, guarded, protected by heaven itself, until this exact season? The room with your name on it doesn't contain a small blessing. It doesn't hold a comfortable retirement or a peaceful sunset. What's sealed behind that door is so magnificent, so powerful, so world-changing, that God couldn't risk releasing it until he was certain you had the character to steward it, the wisdom to handle it, the faithfulness to honor it. Every gray hair on your head is a key to one of those locks. Every wrinkle on your face is a combination to one of those seals. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottles, and now those tears are about to become the oil that lubricates the hinges of your destiny. But here's what's breaking my heart as I speak to you right now. Some of you are so convinced that your time has passed, so certain that you've missed your moment, that even as those seals are cracking, even as those locks are turning, you're walking away from the door. You're giving up 3 steps from your breakthrough. You're surrendering 1 prayer away from your miracle. You're quitting 1 day before your appointed time arrives. The prophet Habakkuk cried out in chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come." Your vision has been lingering. Your calling has been delayed. Your purpose has been sealed. But it will certainly come, and it will not delay 1 second past God's perfect timing. The room is still there. Your name is still on the door. The seals are weakening. The locks are turning. And what's inside that room will make up for every year you thought you wasted, every opportunity you thought you missed, every dream you thought had died. But you have to be ready to walk through when the door opens. You have to be prepared to say yes when heaven calls your name. You have to be willing to step into a calling so significant that it required a lifetime of preparation to receive it. If your spirit is trembling right now, if something deep inside you is awakening after years of sleep, if you can almost hear those seals beginning to crack, then whisper it. Say it out loud where you are. Open the door. Because, chosen one, the room has been waiting. But more importantly, what's inside the room has been waiting. And it's time for you to discover why God sealed away your greatest blessing until you were finally ready to receive it. The question is, are you ready to find out what's been waiting for you behind that door? You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That hallway. That endless, soul-crushing hallway where you've been pacing for months, maybe years. The fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like demonic whispers. The vinyl chairs that have molded to your body from countless hours of waiting. The magazines from 2019 that you've read 17 times because time doesn't move in hallways, it tortures. Maybe your hallway was the oncology wing at Mount Sinai, where you sat clutching your spouse's hand, watching the slow drip of chemo poison the cancer, but feeling like it was poisoning hope itself. Maybe it was the lawyer's office on 42nd Street, where you waited 3 hours to hear that 37 years of marriage was about to be dissolved in 15 minutes of legal jargon. Or maybe it was your own living room, transformed into a hallway of depression, so thick you couldn't see the windows anymore. But here's what nobody told you about that hallway, chosen one. Every single step you took toward breakthrough, hell mobilized against you. Not because you were weak, not because you were cursed, because you were getting close. Listen to me carefully. The warfare wasn't proof you were off track. It was confirmation the door was within reach. Think about Joseph. Genesis 39 through 41 tells us this young man spent 13 years in hallways. 13 years! First Potiphar's house, where he climbed from slave to steward only to be falsely accused and thrown into Pharaoh's dungeon. Can you imagine the psychological torture? Joseph knew God had given him dreams of rulership, but every morning he woke up to stone walls and iron bars. For 13 years, Joseph walked the hallway between promise and fulfillment. And what did he encounter? Betrayal from his master's wife. Abandonment by the cupbearer, who forgot him for 2 whole years. Dreams that seemed to mock him every single night. But here's what Joseph discovered, and what you need to burn into your soul right now. Every attack in the hallway was confirmation that Pharaoh's palace was just around the corner. Why do you think the enemy has been hitting you so hard? Why have the last 18 months felt like spiritual warfare on steroids? Because Hell's intelligence network saw something. They saw your promotion papers being processed in Heaven's HR department. They saw your breakthrough being prepared behind the scenes. And they panicked. You think those panic attacks that started in February were random? That financial pressure that came out of nowhere in March? That family crisis that exploded in April right when you were finally getting your spiritual life together? No, beloved. That was strategic warfare designed to make you turn around in the hallway and walk back to where you came from. But look at you. You're still here. You're still standing. You're still believing when believing hurts. That's not human strength, that's supernatural endurance. That's the kind of stamina hell cannot manufacture and cannot destroy. The Apostle Paul understood hallway warfare better than anyone. 2 Corinthians 11 records his resume of suffering. 5 times beaten with 39 lashes, 3 times beaten with rods, once stoned and left for dead, 3 shipwrecks, countless imprisonments. But what did Paul say about these hallway seasons? Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Light and momentary. Paul, are you kidding me? This man spent years in Roman dungeons, chained to guards, writing letters by candlelight on scraps of parchment. But he called it light and momentary because he understood what you're about to understand. Hallway pain has an expiration date, but palace authority lasts forever. Right now, while you've been fighting battles in emergency rooms and courtrooms and empty bedrooms, God has been preparing something so magnificent that it required this exact season of testing to prepare you to handle it. You couldn't receive what's coming through your old character. The promotion that's heading your way needed a version of you that could only be forged in fire. But here's where most people fail in the hallway. They fight the wrong enemy. They fight the circumstances instead of the spiritual forces orchestrating the circumstances. Ephesians 6:12 makes it clear. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age. You want to know how to fight back? I'm going to give you weapons that will turn your hallway into hell's worst nightmare. First, start declaring Psalm 118-17 every morning before your feet hit the floor. I shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. Not whisper it, declare it, with authority, with conviction. Let every demonic force assigned to your destruction hear that you know who you are. Second, Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Stop praying like you're begging God to help you survive the attack. Start decreeing like you know the attack has already failed. Third, Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to those who love God. Every setback, every delay, every moment of pain, God is weaving it into a comeback story that will leave hell speechless. But the most powerful weapon in your arsenal is this. Keep walking toward that door. Every step you take in the hallway, even when your legs feel like lead, is an act of defiance against every force that wants you to quit. You know what terrifies the enemy more than your prayers? Your persistence, your refusal to turn around, your determination to keep moving forward even when forward feels impossible. If you're still standing after everything hell has thrown at you, if you're still believing when belief feels foolish, if you're still walking when walking hurts, type these 4 words in the comments right now. I'm not turning back. Let hell's intelligence network pick up that signal. Let every demon assigned to your destruction read those words and tremble. Because when chosen ones decide they're not turning back, palaces start preparing for new occupants. But what happens when you finally reach the door at the end of your hallway? What waits for you on the other side of 13 years of testing? You know what breaks my heart? It's watching chosen ones like you carry around empty pockets when your life is filled with golden keys. Keys forged in the furnace of your own testimony. Keys that unlock doors you didn't even know existed. But here's the devastating truth most seniors never discover. You've been trained by a culture of forgetfulness to dismiss the very moments that could resurrect your future. Think about it. How many times have you brushed off a miracle as just lucky timing? How many times have you credited coincidence when heaven moved mountains? You've been conditioned to minimize God's intervention in your life, and that amnesia is killing your faith for what's coming next. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't temptation, it's amnesia. Because a believer who forgets God's faithfulness becomes a believer who doubts God's future. Remember when Joshua led Israel across the Jordan River? The waters parted, 2 million people walked on dry ground. And what did God command them to do next? Build a monument. Take 12 stones from the riverbed. Stack them high. Joshua 4-6 declares, "These stones will be a sign among you." In the future, when your children ask you, "What do these stones mean?" tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. God didn't want them to forget, because forgotten victories become future defeats. But you've forgotten, haven't you? You've let 70, 80, 90 years of God's faithfulness blur into background noise. You remember your failures in high definition, but His miracles in black and white. Remember that night in 1967, when you had $12 to your name and 3 children to feed, and somehow groceries appeared on your doorstep. Remember that morning in 1984 when the doctor said cancer, but something in your spirit said not today, and you're still here breathing. Remember that phone call in 1999 when your prodigal son's voice cracked through the line, "Mom, I'm coming home." Those weren't accidents, those were appointments. Divine appointments written in the calendar of eternity before you took your first breath. But here's what the devil doesn't want you to understand. Your past victories are not souvenirs sitting on the shelf of yesterday. They are weapons forged for today's battles. David understood this. When he faced Goliath, he didn't trust in untested armor. 1 Samuel 17:34 records his words, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." David's past victories became his present confidence. You've been living like your history is your liability when it's actually your arsenal. Remember that marriage that should have ended in divorce, but somehow you found grace to forgive and love bloomed again. Remember that business that failed but led you to the job where you met your best friend for life. Remember that diagnosis that terrified you but taught you to pray with an intensity that moved heaven itself. Every single one of those moments was God depositing spiritual currency into your account. But you've been living like you're spiritually bankrupt when you're actually sitting on a fortune of faithfulness. The key to your next door is forged from every moment you thought you'd lost. Those aren't just memories, chosen one. They're building materials for miracles. But here's the urgent truth that should make your heart race. Time is running short. The next chapter of your life requires the foundation of remembrance, and if you don't lay that foundation now, you'll try to build your future on the shifting sand of doubt instead of the solid rock of God's proven faithfulness. Remember that time you prayed for 3 days straight, and the answer came on the 4th morning like sunrise after the longest night. Remember that moment when you were so broken you couldn't even form words, but somehow heaven heard your heart anyway. Remember that season when everyone said you were finished, but God whispered, "I'm just getting started." Your past is not a graveyard of what was. It's a garden of what's possible. Joshua's stones weren't just for remembering, they were for declaring. When future generations asked, "What do these stones mean?" the answer wasn't whispered. It was proclaimed. It was testified. It was shouted from the rooftops. Your words are the teeth on the key. Your testimony is the mechanism that unlocks what God has prepared for you next, but silence keeps the door sealed. This is why I need you to stop right now. Don't just listen to this message, participate in it. I need you to speak aloud one memory of God's faithfulness, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, right now. Let your voice carry the weight of remembrance. Let your words become the key that unlocks your next miracle. Say it out loud. Tell the air around you about that one time when God showed up when no one else could. Let heaven hear you remember, because your words of testimony don't just honor your past, they authorize your future. The stone of remembrance you're about to place will become the cornerstone of what God builds next in your life. But will you place it? Will you remember? Will you speak? Because what I'm about to show you next depends entirely on whether you understand that your greatest days weren't behind you, they were building you for what's coming. Look at me, chosen one. Right now, as you're sitting there, something is happening in the spiritual realm that you can feel but can't see. Your hands might be trembling slightly. Your heart might be beating just a little faster. That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your spirit knows what your mind is still catching up to. We are inside what the ancient prophets called a kairos moment. Not chronos time, the tick-tock of your grandfather clock in the hallway, but kairos time, divine time, appointed time, the kind of time that doesn't show up on calendars but reshapes destinies. Habakkuk 2-3 says it plainly. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Did you catch that? Will not delay. When God's appointed time arrives, it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It arrives precisely when heaven decrees. But here's what breaks my heart about so many of God's people today. They're living like they have infinite tomorrows when they're actually standing in their appointed hour. They're treating divine moments like everyday occurrences. And then they wonder why breakthrough seems to slip through their fingers like sand. You know what happened to Queen Esther? She was living comfortably in the palace, content with her quiet life, when Mordecai sent her those words that still echo through eternity. For such a time as this. 4 simple words that carried the weight of an entire nation's survival. But notice what he said next, and this should terrify every believer. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. The window was open, but it wouldn't stay open forever. Let me tell you about Robert Martinez from Brooklyn, 78 years old, Vietnam veteran. For 3 months last year, he felt an overwhelming urge to call his estranged brother in Phoenix. 3 months, but pride kept getting in the way. Next week, he'd tell himself, when I'm feeling stronger, when the timing's better. On a Tuesday morning in October, the phone rang. It was his brother's wife. His brother had suffered a massive heart attack the night before. By the time Robert caught the first flight to Phoenix, the window had closed forever. The funeral director handed Robert a letter his brother had written but never sent. It began, Bobby, I've been thinking about you every day for 3 months. Something keeps telling me to call, but I keep waiting for the right words. 2 brothers, both hearing the same divine whisper, both waiting for a better moment that never came. How many divine appointments have you postponed? How many Holy Spirit nudges have you filed under maybe later? How many times has God opened a door and you've said, let me think about it? Because here's what I need you to understand, and this is going to shake you to your core at your age, at your stage of life. You know exactly how fast seasons change. You've watched spring become summer in what felt like a heartbeat. You've seen how quickly children become adults, how swiftly decades disappear. You know that time isn't as generous as young people think it is, but spiritual windows, they move even faster than natural seasons. Think about Noah. Genesis 7:16 tells us that after Noah entered the ark, the Lord shut him in. Not Noah, not his family. The Lord shut the door. When God's window closes, human effort can't pry it open again. The people outside could have built their own boats, could have climbed the highest mountains, could have cried and begged and bargained, but the window was closed. You see, the enemy has been feeding you a deadly lie for years. He's whispered that because you're older, because your body moves slower, because your energy isn't what it used to be, somehow God's timing will adjust to your comfort level. That divine windows will stay open longer for senior saints because God understands your limitations. That's not just wrong, it's spiritually dangerous. God doesn't operate on Medicare schedules. His appointed times don't wait for your arthritis to feel better or your energy to return. When he says now, he means now. When he opens a prophetic window, it operates on heaven's timeline, not your convenience. I know a woman in Miami, Catherine Rodriguez, 82 years old. For weeks, she felt impressed to write a letter to her granddaughter who'd been struggling with addiction. For weeks, she put it off. I don't know what to say. I'm not good with words. Maybe I'll ask the pastor to help me next Sunday. That Sunday never came. The call arrived on a Thursday evening. Her granddaughter had overdosed the night before. Catherine sits by her kitchen table every morning now, staring at the blank paper where those unwritten words should have been. She knows that God had given her the exact window when her granddaughter's heart would have been soft enough to receive love instead of judgment. But the window closed while Catherine was waiting for courage. Don't you see it? Time isn't the enemy. Delay is. Hesitation is. The spirit of maybe tomorrow has killed more divine appointments than persecution ever could. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, there's a window open over your life. I can feel it in the spiritual atmosphere. Something that's been shut for years is creaking open. Some door that's been locked is beginning to turn on its hinges. Some opportunity that's been just out of reach is moving into position. But windows don't stay open forever. The wind is about to shift. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the one specific action that must happen before this window closes. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Before this window closes, because what you do in the next 24 hours will determine whether you step through into your destiny or watch it close from the outside. Write today's date in the comments again. Write it now. 2 timestamps in one day, the moment you first heard this message and the moment you decided whether to act on it. 2 moments heaven will remember forever. Because what I'm about to show you next will explain exactly why this prophetic window opened now, at this exact moment in your life, when you thought your season of divine appointments had passed. You've been standing outside that sealed room your entire life, haven't you? Pressing your ear against the door, hearing whispers of something extraordinary inside, but never quite able to turn the handle. You've knocked, you've pleaded, you've even walked away in frustration, convinced it would never open. But tonight, chosen one, that door isn't just creaking open, it's swinging wide. Do you hear that sound? That's not just hinges moving. That's the sound of heaven's vault being unlocked for you personally. And what's flooding out is going to leave you breathless. Light, blinding, pure, golden light is pouring from that room like liquid fire. Not the harsh fluorescent glare of this world, but the warm, ancient glow of divine presence. It's the same light that filled the temple when Solomon dedicated it to God. The same radiance that knocked Paul off his horse on the Damascus road. And right now, it's flooding over your life. But step closer. Look inside. There are tables, chosen one. Massive oak tables stretching as far as your spirit can see, and they're groaning under the weight of provision. Not just financial blessing, though, that's there. Not just answered prayers, though those cover every surface. These tables hold 70 years of delayed harvest. Every seed you planted in tears. Every kindness you showed when your heart was breaking. Every time you gave when you had nothing left. Isaiah 65:22 declares, "They will not toil in vain or bear children doomed to misfortune, for they will be a people blessed by the Lord." Look at those tables again. Every sacrifice you made that nobody saw, God saw. Every tear you cried in secret, He collected. Every time you chose faith over fear, when your world was crumbling, He recorded it all. And now it's time for the harvest. But that's not all. Do you see those scrolls? Golden scrolls with names written in handwriting that looks suspiciously like yours. But wait, that's not your handwriting. That's heaven's handwriting, penned before the foundation of the world. Your name, your children's names, your grandchildren who haven't even been born yet. because this was never just about you. This revelation should shake you to your core. While you've been thinking you missed your moment, God has been preparing a generational blessing that will echo through bloodlines you'll never meet. Your obedience tonight, your willingness to finally walk through this door, it's not just changing your story, it's rewriting your family tree for the next 100 years. You think you're too old to matter. Abraham was 100 when God fulfilled his promise. You think your mistakes disqualified you. David was an adulterer and murderer, yet called a man after God's own heart. You think you've waited too long. Moses was 80 when he faced Pharaoh and split the Red Sea. God doesn't operate on your timeline. He operates on Kairos time, divine timing that transcends human understanding. But here's what's going to devastate you in the most beautiful way. Look deeper into that room. There are other doors. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Each one leading to a life that your obedience will touch. The granddaughter you'll mentor through her darkest hour. The stranger you'll encounter at the grocery store next Tuesday who's contemplating suicide and your smile will save them. The financial breakthrough that will fund a ministry you've never even heard of. This isn't about your comfort. This is about your commission. Every year you felt invisible, God was positioning you. Every season you felt forgotten, He was preparing you. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't, you were qualifying for this room, this inheritance, this assignment. Ephesians 2:10 reminds us, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." In advance, chosen one. Before you were born, this room existed. Before you took your first breath, these blessings were being prepared. Before you made your first mistake, grace was already covering it. The enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that you're too late, too old, too damaged. But every lie he whispered was actually confirmation that you carry something he desperately wants to stop. Your very existence threatens his kingdom. So here's what I need you to do right now. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't let doubt creep in. I need you to say these 4 words out loud. I receive what's mine. Say it again. Louder this time. Because the door is open. The light is flooding out. The tables are prepared. The scrolls are waiting. And God himself is standing in that room, arms outstretched, saying, "Welcome home, faithful one. Welcome to everything I've been saving for you." But this is just the beginning. Because once you step through this door, once you receive what's waiting for you, you're going to discover something that will change not just your life, but your understanding of why you were born in the first place. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry these truths with you like precious stones in your heart. You are not late. You are right on time for a divine appointment that was scheduled before you took your first breath. That restlessness you've been feeling, that sense of urgency, that knowing that something significant is about to shift, it's all real. God has been preparing you for this moment through every trial, every triumph, every tear you've shed in the quiet hours when no one was watching. The door to your sealed room isn't just open, it's waiting for you to walk through it. The provision, the purpose, the generational blessing that's been building for decades, it's yours. Not because you earned it, but because you've been faithful in the small things. And now God is entrusting you with the great things. But hear me clearly, beloved. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when doubt whispers lies about your age or your worth, the God who parted the Red Sea is still working miracles in your life. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. Romans 8:28 promises that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. That includes every delay, every disappointment, every moment you thought you'd missed your chance. And beyond God's unwavering presence, you have a family right here. Look at these comments flowing in, thousands of chosen ones just like you, carrying the same calling, feeling the same fire, walking the same narrow road that leads to extraordinary purpose. We're not just viewers on a screen. We're a community bound by divine assignment, ready to stand with you in prayer, to celebrate your victories, and to remind you of your worth when the world tries to make you forget. So, let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know the door is open, now that you understand God has been preparing you for such a time as this, what will you do with the authority He's placing in your hands? Before I release you into your destiny, join me in prayer. Wherever you are, whether you're sitting in your living room, lying in your bed, or even watching this in your car, place your hand on your heart and let me speak over your life. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul watching this message right now. Lord, you see them. You know their name, their story, their struggles, and their secret dreams. You've counted every tear, heard every whispered prayer, and witnessed every act of faithfulness when no one else was looking. Father, I pray for divine activation over their lives. Break every chain of delay, every spirit of discouragement, every lie that has whispered they're too late or too old. Open their eyes to see the doors you're opening. Give them courage to walk through them. Surround them with your favor like a shield. Bless their health, Lord. Strengthen their bodies for the journey ahead. Bless their relationships, heal what needs healing, restore what needs restoring, and remove what needs removing. Bless their finances, pour out provision that exceeds their expectations and enables them to be a blessing to others. Most importantly, Father, fill them with unshakable peace. When the storms come, remind them that you are their anchor. When fear tries to paralyze them, remind them that you have not given them a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. Let them wake up tomorrow, not as the same person who started watching this video, but as someone who has encountered the living God and been forever changed. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart tonight. What door is He opening for you? What fear is He asking you to release? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take their next step of faith. If this message stirred something deep in your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's a friend, a family member, a neighbor who's been feeling that same restlessness, that same divine discontent. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know their moment is coming too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. This isn't just content. This is a movement of awakened souls, chosen ones who refuse to settle for ordinary when God has called them to extraordinary. Every week, we're diving deeper into the mysteries of your divine calling. And I don't want you to miss a single message that might hold the key to your next breakthrough. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for allowing these words to penetrate the sacred places where only truth can reach. Your time is precious, and you chose to invest it in seeking God's heart for your life. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are and what you're destined to become. The door is open, chosen one. Your room is ready. Your assignment is waiting. Now go and step into everything God has prepared for you since before time began.